Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I've just sat down to finally edit the video you guys are about to watch, and I realized that it kind of needs a bit of like a bit of an introduction, maybe a bit of an explanation, because while I was vlogging during this day, I wasn't like talking to you guys during the vlog. I was just like doing nice shots of everything, and I'm also now pretty sure you can hear my heater up here. But that's okay because I don't want to freeze while I'm doing this video. So a couple of weekends ago I went to Glenrowan for the day. My dad actually had to drop off some stuff to this guy, and he was like, let's just all go to Glenrowan because we hadn't been before and just check out the town, because for those who don't know, Glenrowan is particularly famous for being the place of Ned Kelly's last stand and the Glenrowan siege, and it's all very, very important and historical and awesome and very touristy. So before we actually got to the touristy stuff, we had to go drop this stuff off at this guy's house, and we went like through Glenrowan and out the other side, and the view that you get when you turn sort of out of Glenrowan towards, I think it's the Moyu Road, I'm not quite sure, you're going south anyway, you get this view of this valley filled with trees. You see hills and mountains in the distance, and in the very distance on the horizon we saw snow on the caps, and I looked at the map and we were pretty much looking at Mount Buller. So I'm just going to show that photo now. So like there was the first, like I'd been to the snow as a kid with school, but this was like the first time I'd actually seen as like an adult, as like someone who cared, like snow-capped mountains in the distance, and I love the photo and I just thought it was really good. Anyway, another point. So our first stop in Glenrowan was to the Glenrowan Museum, and what is it? It's like it's Kate's, I think it's called Kate's Cottage and Ned Kelly Museum. And firstly we walked around the gift shop because that's like the first, it's like we firstly walked around the gift shop because that's like where you go in and you pay to actually go in further to the museum. So we'll just do a little Ned Kelly haul while we're going. So I got this poster. It is from the Australasian sketch of, from Saturday the 3rd of July 1880, Ned Kelly at Bay. It's a nice thick glossy print. There was actually a couple of other posters there that I kind of wish I'd gotten. I'm ever back in Glenrowan, I'm stopping at the gift shop to get some other posters because I just think they look really, really cool. Plus I got myself a little Ned Kelly figurine, and it has 1855 to 1880 on the bottom, and that's not really going to focus, but yeah, I just thought it was really cute. So we looked through the museum, and the museum is just all about Ned Kelly, and not just Ned Kelly, like the Kelly family, and the entirety of the Kelly gang, and looking at also some of the other important people who were involved with Ned Kelly, because the Kelly family actually came from around Glenrowan to begin with. They were in the area, and it just then so happened that Ned was involved in a lot of things around the area, so that's all in the museum. So it's not just about the last stand and the Glenrowan siege, it's about everything, and it's filled with so much information and so many historical artifacts and relics, and a lot of it is donated by the Kelly family. So a lot of it is the stuff that the Kelly family was using and had in their house back in the day. A lot of it is just kind of random pieces of the period that they probably did use similar things like that, or those sort of things existed in houses of the time. But it's a really, really nice museum. It's not even that big of a room, as you'll be able to see in the clips. But yeah, it was a really good museum, and it was filled with so much. And I'm someone who, when I'm in a museum, like I do obviously look at everything and read a lot of stuff, but if there's a lot of pieces with writing and information on it, I'll usually just take photos of some of the interesting bits or things that I want to read or come back to later, so that way I can not spend like a ton of time in the museum reading everything and trying to take in as much as possible. I can come back and I can read things later, you know. It's just a good way to do it. I really recommend, if you are allowed to take photos in a museum, take photos of plaques with information on it, so you can come back and read it later, and you can double check things and, you know, revise things, you know what I mean? So at the back of the museum, the main attraction is an authentic replica of the Kelly's cottage from 11 Mile Creek. The cottage itself no longer exists. It's actually on private property. I think there's only remnants of like the chimney sweeps. I think there's just remnants of the chimneys left. So this is a replica in the back of the museum, and it's got 4 rooms in it that's filled with sort of how the cottage would have looked in the day. A lot of the stuff in the kitchen area in particular was used by Ellen Kelly, who's Ned's mother, and Kate Kelly, who is Ned's sister. And yeah, it was really cool. And during this entire time they had this audio playing. I'm not entirely sure what it was. It was a bit like music and just kind of talking about the history of Ned Kelly, kind of like telling his life story kind of thing. I was kind of zoning in and out of this audio simply because I was reading things and taking things in. I would have really liked to have known what that was, because it was quite interesting, like the bits I got to hear, and whoever was like narrating it was just really good. And then at the back of the museum further, there is like a blacksmith area and a cart and stuff like that. And then also outside is actually the original door and gate from the maximum security section of the original Pentridge prison. Yeah, like the doors that kept Ned Kelly at bay and that he would have walked through, kind of thing. And there's also a like cardboard cutout reenactment of Ned before he was hung at the gallows. So then of course we went and took photos with the big Ned Kelly statue. This is like a big feature in the main street of Glenrowan. He's actually quite a tall guy. If you're going to Glenrowan, you have to get your photo with the big Ned Kelly. We then went for lunch, which obviously I didn't vlog at all, but we went to the bakery and it was really nice. I really recommend, if you're ever in Glenrowan, to go to the bakery. So then there are a number of historical sites marked out through Glenrowan. There's big like markers with information boards. In some places there's big bollards representing like police or townspeople. So we went around to, what did we do? We went to the old railway station, which is just a hut on the rails. There's the place where they found a pistol in 1997, which links in with the Kelly gang. The place where Annie Jones's inn was, which is where which was burnt down during the siege, because the gang held a whole bunch of townspeople hostage. Ned ended up leaving and the police set it alight to kill the final 2 bushrangers that were the final 2 members of the gang that were in there. So that's a vacant block, but there's some information there. We walked past the old blacksmith. I don't even think it's actually the blacksmith from like Ned Kelly's time. It used to be a touristy stop, but it's been sold, but it still looked really cute out the front. And then there was the actual siege spot, which it was kind of really eerie walking through it, because the area that it's in is still, it's kind of landscaped to be kind of how it could have been in the day. Like there's still like a bit of a creaky bit in it, and it's all Australian natives. But yeah, there's some information plaques along there, and then there's actually a stone marker for where Ned was shot and where he was captured. And naturally I got a photo standing there, because last year when I went to Forbes, I will link to those vlogs below, we went to the place where Ben Hall was shot, and it was just kind of really weird to then be in the same sort of place for Ned. And it was just kind of weird that like this was where he was last a free man. Like at this point, like at that exact spot, he was shot by police, and then he was arrested and sent to Melbourne. He then went on trial, and then he was hung. It's just, I don't know, it was just a really weird thing. Then yeah, it was really good being in Glenrowan. I have to admit, I always kind of assumed that Glenrowan was a little bit bigger, that it had like more stuff there. I don't know why. I hadn't really looked into Glenrowan, but I just always kind of thought it was, I know there was more there, but I'm still really, really glad that we went. The only place we didn't go that's touristy is the Ned Kelly experience, I want to say. It's an animatronic museum where they have reenactments of the siege, I think it is. We didn't go in there mainly because, for starters, it's $30 a person, which isn't a big deal, but my dad is the stingiest guy on the planet, and I was just like, I'm not even gonna be like, I didn't want to go in by myself. Like, I didn't want to be like the one person walking around in this animatronic reenactment. I felt like that would be weird. But yeah, maybe another day, go back when my dad isn't there, and enjoy that. But they have the reenactments like every half hour, and so as we were walking through the museum, you could actually hear the guns going off in this reenactment, and you could hear it just as you were walking down the street. Like, you know, you'd suddenly hear shots fired, and I kind of, it was just weird, like, kind of thing. If you didn't know that there was this reenactment museum, you would kind of think someone's like getting shot up every half hour kind of thing. But I have heard good things about that, so I mean, if you're in the area, definitely go. So that's about it. I had a really good time in Glenrowan. It was a really good day, well spent. If you are ever in the Glenrowan area, I definitely recommend stopping, even if you just have a look at like along the siege precinct and just look at the historical stops, or just get a photo with the big Ned Kelly. But I do definitely recommend going to the museum because it's so fascinating. I'm going to link below to a blog post I wrote up the Monday after we went. It's full of heaps of information. I actually am really happy with how it turned out, and some photos and stuff like that. If you want to see more photos from Glenrowan, then definitely go check out that blog post. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys soon with another one. Bye!